That's a lot better. It's tight against that. I do have a 1-inch gap, but that's alright. I'll fill that in. I moved outside because I'm going to be cutting this board with a grinding wheel. It's just a masonry bit, and it makes a lot of dust, so I don't want to do it in the basement. I actually took this board upstairs and set it in front of the faucet diverter and marked where it was going to line up. I measured afterwards just to confirm it, but I didn't want to get it wrong and drill the hole in the wrong spot. So I'm going to start cutting. I'm going to do a 5-inch hole to fit over the diverter. Well, after quite a bit of cutting, it's not easy with this grinding wheel. You can see it heats it up pretty well. I have our 5-inch disc cut out, see if it fits. Well, I brought the board up, I set it in place. It fits, which is good, but there's another bit of a problem. You can see there's about a 1/2 inch difference in height here. That's because this board on the bottom is a 1/2 inch off the bottom to keep it level. So I could either set this level, I could lift this edge up to make it flush with the top. I think I'm just going to tip it up a little bit. That's level now on the top. The gap here is fine. It's I can fill this in with caulk so it'll be waterproof. It's fairly tight on the bottom, so I'm going to set it right here. And I'm going to end up coming back and having to remove all this anyways and putting another strip of concrete board here. So I'm going to set it in place level. Even though this gap isn't perfect, I'll just have to cut each board individually, which I'm going to anyways. Alright, I've installed the first 3 boards and now I'm ready to do the top row of concrete board of the HardieBacker, and I measured and marked on this board what I'm going to cut, and this is the tool I'm going to be using. It's a carbide tipped just scraper, and it's a lot less messy than the grinding wheel, but it's equally as slow. The first row you got to take your time and get a nice straight line. And then after that, you're just following that line and scraping repeatedly. I haven't found, like the grinding wheel, a better way to cut straight lines. I'm sure there is, because this is a pain. So you just do that over and over and over until you break it. Kind of like drywall with a utility knife, but you're using the scraper with a carbide bit. And it takes about 5 minutes to do a cut. Alright, I'm about halfway through, so I'm going to try to see if I can break it. I'm going to pull it to the edge of the workbench, just like drywall. Yep, there it goes. If you go about halfway through, it'll snap pretty easily. So, see if this fits. Alright, I'm going to install these boards up top the same order as I installed these. So I'm going to put the back in first. Then I'm going to put in this side piece, which I've also cut and checked, and that fits. Just so that it all fits together the same way. So I'm going to screw that in now. Here's the final board I cut, and I cut out the slot for the spout. Well, I said I was done putting up concrete board, but that wasn't necessarily true. I took down, there was metal trim over the drywall, and it was sticking up about a 1/2 inch past the face of here, so I wouldn't have been able to get any tile adhesive in there. So I cut that, took it down, and I'm going to scrape down the drywall till it's flush with the stud here. Then I cut some small strips of the concrete board, and I'm going to put those up so it's flush all the way to the edge, because we're going to have our tiles come all the way to the edge. So I'm going to fill in all the gaps with the boards. Smaller gaps, I'm going to use just some silicone caulk, and I have some fiber cloth mesh for stuff like in the corner here. I might put it on the seam too, I'm not sure. But I'm going to just do this and then do the caulk, and then we'll be able to waterproof it with the red waterproof paint. Well, I attached the strip of concrete board just with silicone caulk, and I had to use some tape to hold it on there. Hopefully that'll stay. It's just kind of like a stop, a water gap to fill that area. And I'm using 100% silicone, and I'm going around and filling in all the gaps that I can. I like to use 100% silicone. Also, if you buy a 2-pack, you can usually get 2 for $5. Usually they're like $5 or $6, but you can usually find somewhere in the aisle they'll give you 2 for $5. So I just have the white silicone, and I'm just going around filling in all the gaps. Put up all the boards, and I've filled in all the gaps, and I've siliconed as much of the gaps as I can. I didn't do the top because hopefully water won't get up there, and I didn't do around the fixtures because we're going to seal those with tile as best we can. But I will silicone around the seals when we're all done. Okay, it's been a day since I put up the drywall filler trim and the concrete board filler piece on the end here. I used silicone caulk. It's all dry and set in place, and I'm just going to use the drywall rasp and try to smooth this over, because the concrete and the drywall are different thicknesses, and we're going to probably put the edge of the tile is going to be overlapping the drywall here a little, so I'm just trying to smooth out the transition. Alright, I used the spackling joint compound, and I filled in all the areas on the drywall on both sides. I just did it now, so it's going to be easier than trying to do it when the tile's in. And I'm going to let that dry for a few hours, and then I'm going to paint with this. It's called Red Guard. It's a membrane. It is like a thick, goopy kind of paint. I'm just going to use a standard paintbrush, paint a coat on everywhere over the silicone, and put it on thick in some areas like the corners and the joints. Shut the door, air out the bathroom, let it dry overnight, and then I'll put a second coat on tomorrow. And hopefully this will provide a waterproof sealant, almost like a plastic covering over everything. So in case any water does get through the tiles, which are porous, we have porous tiles. So in case any water does get through the tile adhesive, it won't get absorbed by the concrete board. Alright, one day later, this is second coat. And I'm putting extra paint on the joints and seams here. Alright, we're getting ready to reglaze the tub. We've finished with the Red Guard paint, and we're going to reglaze it before we put the tile up. Now, at Home Depot, there was a product, I think it was $50, and inside it came with 2 spray cans. And we looked online, and we found something that was about half the price from Rust-Oleum, and it's Tub and Tile Refinishing Kit. And inside, it comes with an A and a B, and they say mix this up, combine it, and I guess it creates like some sort of epoxy or glaze, and that's what you use to coat the tub. But the real key, I think, after reading the instructions, is the prep work. It says to clean it, get rid of all the residue, get rid of all the caulking. It says use Comet cleaner on everything. Then it says to sand it. Then it says to get rid of all the dust. with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, I think it said. So I've taped off the metal grate so we don't get anything in there. And I put masking tape along the edge. So I'm going to clean it, then I'm going to sand it, then I'm going to mix the two parts. And I think I'm going to do 2 coats. It says wait 3 hours in between, I believe, or an hour. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Hopefully it looks like new. We'll find out. What you just watched was just one part from a series of bathroom remodel videos we did. Click next to see the next video in the series, or you could check out my bathroom remodel playlist to see all the videos we did while remodeling the 3 bathrooms in our house. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to like the video and subscribe. Thanks.